rebundling. An alliance has emerged in the intensifying streaming wars. Disney and Warner Brothers Discovery are teaming up to release a brand new streaming bundle later this year. So what does this new partnership mean for the streaming landscape moving forward? We're looking at how to navigate the big picture with the Yahoo Finance playbook, and we're joined by Ken Leon, Research Director of Equity Research at CFRA, and Jamie Lumley, Third Bridge Sector Analyst. Jamie, I'm going to start with you. You're here with us in studio. I just keep getting so amused by this discussion because it's like this new innovation, bundling, right, which is what cable did, right? But do you think that this is the way forward, and is this going to benefit the various parties who are doing it?
It definitely is interesting development, and we're seeing this increasingly in this space. One thing we've been hearing at Third Bridge from the experts we speak with is just the fact that what streamers are looking for are ways to not only drive growth, but also manage churn. It's a huge issue. Serial churners are one of the things which all these platforms have to deal with, is people either at the end of their show, they decide just to switch to a new platform. At the end of a sports season, they decide to just cut off that service. By having these bundles, it's a new way that they can both drive longer term customer value, while also showcasing different types of content. With the matchup of a Hulu and a Max and a Disney Plus, it really covers all the bases of genres and can appeal to a lot of different audiences.
Ken, I want to bring you here as well. Ken, I heard Rich Greenfield, longtime media analyst at Lightshed, and he said something interesting, Ken. I want to get your take on this, which is that he said he thinks a lot of companies now have a bad case of what he called bundleitis. And I think what Rich was getting at, hopefully I'm not mischaracterizing Rich, but if I am, he'll definitely let me know. I think what Rich was saying was, a lot of companies now seem to believe if I just bundle my services together, that really is sort of the answer to a lot of my problems when it comes to churn or engagement. And I think what Rich was getting at, Ken, is he was kind of disagreeing with that. It really isn't, Rich was saying. Really, you want to answer these questions and these challenges of churn and engagement. Well, the answer to that is great content, but you got to invest in that. What is sort of your reaction to that, Ken?
I think when you look at the bigger picture, it's really a lot of these media companies trying to figure out how can they be profitable. So the first step was reducing programming and content spending. The second was de-risking, because they have no control really of the customer. Unlike wireless or even cable TV decades ago, you had 1 or 2 year contracts. So churn is very high. They will never release that. And also, if you look at where entertainment has moved to events, to live sports. So none of these managements will say that they can get to a 20% operating margin on this business, nor a 50% EBITDA margin like wireless. So it's not a great business. And I think they're all de-risking, they're reducing capital, and they're going to say, gee, Netflix is a winner. Large technology companies can play here. What can we do for 2 things? 1, try to grow subscribers, and 2, try to get advertising revenue. So that's where bundle comes in. But it's only going to be maybe a number 3 or 4. There's going to be a lot of players that are really not going to make it in this game because it's just not as attractive as before.
So I guess there's sort of 2 questions here then. There's which bundle is most compelling to customers, and then which of the individual streaming companies is most compelling to investors, which is maybe those are the same question. I don't know, Ken, but those seem to me to be the 2 most pertinent questions here.
Well, they are, and they're mostly more U.S. or North America centric. Outside of the U.S., it's a very different game where the average revenue is much lower. And if you don't have an agile technology platform like Netflix, you're way behind, both for trying to get subscribers and keeping them and programming. So when you talk about bundling again, this is a defensive move by these companies, and they're looking to reduce their capital in this business because it's just not as attractive as it was before. For anyone like the CFO of Disney to opine that 3 or 5 years out that this is going to be a great business, they are not showing a case example of the profitability of streaming. It's a very difficult business. It's technology agile, and subscribers can watch House of Dragons on Max and then go somewhere else.
Jamie, I want to bring you back in here because we were talking before Disney reported earnings and we were talking about the streaming business. And your big question, Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, was really beyond this quarter, really your kind of long-term question still about what exactly both growth and profitability looks like for that streaming segment. What's your current thoughts on that?
Well, certainly, if we look at what Disney just reported, they definitely had some key positives in the most recent quarter. They are now at profitability in their entertainment streaming segment. Bear in mind that they have some softer expectations for next quarter. They are roughly on schedule for the profitability metrics they set out when they launched Disney Plus back in 2019. But they're definitely scrambling for growth drivers here. If you look at the subscriber additions they had, there were 6 million core Disney Plus subscribers added. But a lot of that is attributed to the Charter Communications deal, which was set up last year. And there could be some softness going forward. And what was really interesting to see is they cited Netflix as really the example here to follow when it comes to cracking down on password sharing, as really this business is looking for ways to grow, and they increasingly have to be creative to find out what the best way is to tap subscriber growth. Because ultimately, while they are focused on profitability, they still really want to see this be a full transition away from a legacy linear business and be a new, not just barely profitable, but strong, resilient business with strong fundamentals.
So what I'm hearing both of you say is it sounds really hard, what they're both trying to do. So Jamie, I'll start with you, and then Ken, I want to get your take. So who's best positioned then in this streaming landscape? I mean, you guys are both saying Netflix, Netflix, Netflix. Are there other companies that are going to come out of this strong besides Netflix?
Well, Netflix certainly is in a great position. I mean, if we look at them right now, Ken was talking about operating margins. They're at 28%, which is certainly head and shoulders above every other player. And in terms of their ability to catch up, it will take a while, even for those who might be capable of that. It's also worth highlighting Amazon. They're certainly a different platform. They obviously rely on e-commerce for a lot of their business, but increasingly advertising is going to be a huge revenue driver for them. If you look at right now, the percentage of Amazon Prime users who are on advertising, it's the vast majority. They'll increasingly be a revenue driver for them, which could make that potentially eventually be a profitable business. Then it's worth remembering that Disney can get there. It's just a question of how long it will take for it to really reach those double-digit operating margins. Everyone, though, below that 100 million subscriber mark, it'll be a tougher story. Warner is kind of there, depending on how you really look at the way they report. But the question really is Paramount going to be able to deliver this, particularly when they're in this time of turmoil, as well as Comcast?
So Ken, same question here, real quick. Who should investors be buying here in this space?
So they should be buying Netflix and also Spotify for music. Investors don't have to own 3 or 5 names in media because the business models are not that good. And I think when you look at growth and algorithms of intelligence for global platforms, it's Netflix and Spotify for music.
All right.
You need to
Netflix and Spotify. Ken, Jamie, thank you guys both for joining the show. Appreciate it.